I'm going to go chronologically here. So these are not a ranking. These are going to be chronologically. So we start in week 1, and obviously in week 1, there's a couple of monster matchups, and I start with our monster matchup on Fox, Texas at Ohio State. That's my first game. Rematch of the college football playoff semifinal. Sark is going to take his team up to the shoe and face the defending national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We've never had, by the way, teams open the season, as far as I can remember, in a 1 versus 2 matchup. That might be the case with these two teams. I think at worst, you're going to have like a 1v3 game at worst. At maybe 1-4. I can't really see that being anything outside of that. So this is going to be a monster matchup. Not only do you have that, all the backstory, these teams just played in the college football semifinal, but you also have the first start in the Arch era. Now, I know that Arch has started before, but the first start of the Arch era. This is now his team. This is his program. And so Arch Manning here as your starter for Texas, and he's going to get that start against the defending national champion on the road. That's pretty awesome. So I cannot wait for that scenario. We've also got the quarterback situation at Ohio State. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Julian Sayin? I know he's incredibly talented. I've really enjoyed watching what he brings to the table when I've been in Columbus and I've seen practice. You're going to have a new offensive play caller in Brian Hartline. You're going to have a new defensive play caller in Matt Patricia at Ohio State. You're going to have this idea that like Steve Sarkisian has brought Texas back to the position where they have been or were desperate to be for a decade, which is right at the forefront of college football. He's done a remarkable job, but now it's back-to-back years in which they've lost in the national semifinal. So he wants to take a step forward. He wants the program to take a step forward. They've recruited at a ridiculously high level. You know how I feel about Steve Sarkisian. He is one hell of a college football coach. He would be easily in my top 5 or 6 in the country. And now he's going against a guy that now is easily in the top 2 or 3 in the country, and that's Ryan Day. And how different has this offseason felt for Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes? I mean, my goodness. Granted, they have not beaten Michigan in several years, but winning the national championship has made this feel totally different. Like the monkey off his back. I actually think Ohio State might go on a bit of a run here. I would not be surprised at all if Ohio State wasn't right back in this position where they were competing for and potentially winning a national championship this year. So we get to see all of that play out right there in front of us. Week 1 in the shoe, Ryan Day, Steve Sarkisian, possibly Julian Sayin against Arch Manning. You've got new coordinators. You've got all of it, the colors, all of it. I cannot wait for that game. That's week 1. Also in week 1, we move on to my second game, LSU at Clemson. Yep. Sign me up. Did we just become best? Yep. I love this matchup as well. Easily going to be a top 10 matchup in week 1. Brian Kelly needs this game. Guys, he needs this game. Now, we all expect LSU to be a really good football team. They've gone all in out of the portal. They've got a quarterback back. That experience at that position, as we've seen in the last couple of years with J.J. McCarthy and Will Howard winning national championships, you need experience at that position. And now Brian Kelly has it, although he's 0-3 in season openers. And LSU, they need this. Like, let's be honest. I think LSU fans need this. They need to see this program progressing. In a lot of ways, it's not all that dissimilar from Sark's first couple of years at Texas, where it was like, oh, is this working? And then you got the breakthrough. And so we need to start seeing the breakthrough for Brian Kelly at LSU. I think that that's totally fair. And I do think that we're going to see that this year. I'm a big believer in what LSU can do this year. I think this is a playoff team, and yet they're going to Clemson, and I actually feel a little bit better about Clemson. Dabo is clearly, he's bet on himself, his philosophy. He's bet on his model, and now he seems to be reloading for another run. Clemson is really good. They've also got experience at the quarterback position with the guy that I had as my number 1 quarterback going into the season, Cade Klubnik. I think that you look at this matchup, You've got a really good defense for Clemson. You've got a quality offense for LSU. You're going to have the home game effect for Clemson. And then you get into the conference kind of aspect of this matchup, which I love. Maybe not, I'll just say like less so for Texas and Ohio State because we just know those conferences are going to be great and we know those teams are going to be great. But in this respect, when you get this SEC ACC battle early in the year, in particular with a team that I think we all, including myself, expect Clemson to win the ACC, if LSU beats Clemson in Clemson week 1 and Clemson goes on to win the ACC, let's say even in a dominant fashion, well, now the SEC is going to be sitting there like, hey, that conference should only get one participant, obviously. And we should get all the rest of them. That's why these non-conference games become so important, is because of the lobbying that'll inevitably take place as we finish up the season. I got to be honest, too, and listen, I understand that I have a certain reputation, but I think that this reputation is just based on facts. Right now, the SEC desperately needs a giant non-conference win. Now, you might say, like, no, we don't desperately need it, but you look at what's going on, okay? Last year, Texas lost to Ohio State in the national semifinal. Georgia lost to Notre Dame in the playoff. Tennessee got their doors absolutely blown off their hinges at Ohio State. You had Michigan beating Alabama in a bowl game with a lot of their players not playing in that game. And Jalen Milroe was in that game. That hasn't been the case for Clemson because they were 0-3 against the SEC last year. So they need a win against that conference, but the SEC also needs a marquee win against anybody else. And this is clearly, at least in my estimation, going to be a top 5 or 6 team in the preseason in Clemson. So this would be a big one for the SEC because what we saw late last year is that they're starting to lose their grip on this, mantra that everyone can just pound the table and say like, oh, they're the best conference. Well, that didn't actually play out the last couple of years, at least not on the field, not in terms of the national champion and not in some of these marquee games and in particular playoff games when everything was on the line. So implications in that respect in terms of conference supremacy and in particular the playoff moving forward. Okay, so that's week 1. Those are the first 2 games. Let's move on, and I might go a little quicker. Week 2, massive game. Michigan on the road at Oklahoma. You bet. Cannot wait for this one. Sharon Moore goes to play his former team, by the way. This is where he played at Oklahoma. He played for Bob Stoops. And now he's going to take this Michigan team that needs a bounce back. They need a bounce back year desperately. Defense was fine last year. Offense was not. They need to figure out the quarterback position. They spent a lot of money. They did a lot of work in the recruiting process and got Bryce Underwood, one of the most attractive and sought-after recruits that we've seen in a long time, and they landed him. And so this might be, kind of the first major start that we see from Bryce Underwood under Sharon Moore. Sharon will still be there. Remember, the self-imposed suspension's not going to go into effect until after this game. So he's going to coach in this game in week 2. But also on the opposite side, let's face it, Oklahoma needs this for a bounce back. Granted, they played a horrifically difficult schedule last year, but Brent Venables also needs a bounce back. He needs to gain a foothold as the head coach for OU. Everybody was excited when he came in, okay? They all felt the sting when Lincoln Riley rode off into the sunset, literally, to the West Coast and USC, and they brought back Brent Venables, who won a national championship as a coordinator at OU, who's an Oklahoma guy, and everyone felt good about it, but now they need something to feel good about on the field. So both of these programs are in desperate need of a bounce game, and this could provide that for either program. I would just say, like, John Mateer coming in with Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator, I'm expecting Oklahoma to take a real good step and a nice step offensively. What might be difficult is that they're going to have to face a defense that is going to be outstanding. Wink Martindale figured it out late last year in terms of being a coordinator at the college level. They're going to get Rod Moore back at safety, and all those players that were on the field in the bowl game stopping Alabama, even with Jalen Milroe, are going to be back. They also got the transfer tackle from Clemson. Like, Michigan's going to be incredible on defense. And so John Mateer and that offense for OU, they're going to have quite a test early. So is Bryce Underwood. Again, winner of that game gets a major bounce forward and now all of a sudden establishes really the depth of that conference in each of those conferences. The winner, like I said, establishes the depth of either the Big Ten or the SEC.
Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.